Did that clock been changed or not?
It's supposed to change automatically.
Oh,
That's what I thought my truck was gonna be, but
Well, but it hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed yet. That's supposed to be an
No.
international,
It's supposed to be
tied up to,
automatically.
tied into some satellite somewhere.
the satellite may be ours.
Satellite's frozen up.
Wonder who got that clock? That sounds like something like now.
I don't know.
Gonna say, nuts, his name isn't Neville, he hasn't been here so long. He's in a nursing home right now. Lost his name.
Who are you thinking about?
It's a gentleman who sang that song every Sunday morning for
Oh, Norval?
Norval. I had the end right. I wanted to say Neville. And Neville's the name of one of Catherine's dogs. I knew that wasn't right, but I was close.
Norval Ziegler.
That's something that an engineer kind of mind would
Yeah.
come up with.
They were not the Oak Ridge boy. I didn't know the Oak Ridge boy, they were from Alabama. And I always thought they was from here. The old one, back in the 40s, they were from here. Do you know that band, the band Oak Ridge Boys?
yes.
Yeah, they started here. There was a three brothers. They started singing gospel. But later on, when, bringing new members, and then I know there were another one finally ready to be a country song. But the member, I think somebody said they are from Alabama, one live in Nashville.
You're in Alabama now.
Yeah, they're from Alabama. I came here and sing the Christian boy. They got the name only.
Huh, are they even still alive? Are they,
No,
Yep.
the new members,
oh,
they got it. It's not the
group's
same
still
people.
functioning.
Yeah. There were three brothers, according to Google. There were three brothers, they started here in Knoxville singing gospel in churches. And then they brought members, and then one got out, and another one came in. And that's how they've been having the group for so long.
huh. And so the group still exists, but with no relation to the town?
No, had nothing to do with
All right.
the founders. Four more minutes.
Huh. I'm never early. I don't know what to do with myself.
And even though you lost an hour's sleep, you're still here early.
I did my
It's
best to
astonishing.
remember to change it. But if I didn't, I know good well I'll be coming in here when the class be over.
Yeah.
Because I was late 1 hour.
You and your dad making progress on your book? Or shouldn't I mention that?
Oh, it feels like I don't know, like an endless hole. Like you keep putting work in and it doesn't seem like, I don't know. I just can't see an ending from here.
So the light at the end of the tunnel just keeps staying farther at the end. It doesn't get any closer.
Yeah.
And the other day I was asking her that. I thought you just get there, you got your note, and you start typing. I didn't know it take this long.
Yeah. It's kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So
One day, I'm going to be in the bookstore looking for them.
yeah, I hope so.
I'll be the first one. Yeah, I hope everybody changed the clock. Don't look like it.
I assume apart from being an hour off, it's accurate. Is that
Don't be surprised how many they're gonna be late for work tomorrow. They still
I
haven't
know.
changed. They still haven't changed the time.
But the cell phone will do that for you.
Yeah, the
So many
phone.
people carry cell phones now.
Yeah, they.
You don't worry about it.
What was it?
Did yours change automatic, Bobby?
Yeah,
Yeah, mine did the same.
it did.
And this one, when I travel, it changed to the time.
Oh, that's
You know,
nice.
and from Georgia to Alabama, when you cross, that's the state line. It's a time
There she
change.
are.
Wow.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Morning. Sorry, I'm running. I was downstairs.
Oh.
I forgot to print the deacon minutes for this afternoon and trying to get some work done. You know how it is.
Yeah, wow. Well, even when you're late, you're early.
Well, only a minute. Because it's supposed to be 10, right?
Yeah.
And that clock's an hour off.
You leave Gary in the snowdrift somewhere?
I did. He wasn't feeling well. Do we need Bibles for him?
Oh, I mean, sure, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling too well last night, so he decided to stay home and watch from home today.
Oh, all right, so.
Mark,
Yeah, there are people watching from home. Yeah, so let's start with prayer. Dear Lord, thank you that we could get up on time. Thank you for me that I could get up on time and be on time today to meet you. I pray that you would meet with us, that we would know you better and know each other better. Amen.
amen.
All right, so glad to see you have Bibles. I printed out the main text on one side, and then there are general questions on the other side. And so I just wanted to take a minute to talk about, I don't know how familiar you may be with inductive Bible studies. So I went through multiple universities with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, and this is kind of a standard kind of Bible study that InterVarsity often uses. And so an inductive Bible study basically has three parts that can kind of overlap and merge together, but basically there are three different kinds of questions. And the first is observation questions. So looking at the text and noticing. And the questions that I have down here are just general questions. So like the first part, you look at the text and you say, like, what do you notice? And often you maybe count words, like what are the repeated words? What are the contrasting words? You try to ask the basic kind of reporter's questions, like who and what and where and when and how. And then interpretation, the why question that usually goes in with those reporters' questions, fits in with interpretation, like what strikes you as significant or interesting or revealing or strange in the passage. And then at the end, you get to applications. So, and some of the typical kinds of application questions are, like, what do we see about the character of God? Where's the grace in the passage? Or what does this mean for me as a student of Jesus or as a worshiper of God? Okay, so those are the kinds of questions that we're going to use and kind of the progression of questions as we go through the passage. All right. And so I guess since I have the microphone, I can read the passage. And so Mark 1 through 13, but I'm particularly interested in focusing on 9 through 13. So I'll read just for context, I've included all of it, and I'll read starting at 1. And this is from the NIV. I think that Frank used a different translation that folks at home, I hate thinking of more people here, but they may have a different translation. Okay, so in the beginning, sorry, this is the wrong book, right?
That's okay.
The beginning of the good news about Jesus the Messiah, the Son of God, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way, a voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. And so John the Baptist appeared in the wilderness, preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. The whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to him. Confessing their sins, they were baptized by him in the Jordan River. John wore clothing made of camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist, and he ate locusts and wild honey. And this was his message. After me comes one more powerful than I, the straps of whose sandals I am not worthy to stoop down and untie. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. Just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." At once the Spirit sent him out into the wilderness, and he was in the wilderness 40 days, being tempted by Satan. He was with the wild animals, and angels attended him. Okay, and so let me give you a few minutes to look at the passage and mark some of these things that we talked about, like what are the repeated ideas, what observations do you have, what strikes you as interesting or strange, what kinds of questions do you have? Does anyone need a writing instrument? I can probably find some somewhere.
Thank you. I thought I had one in my pocket, but of course I didn't.
Yeah, these work if someone needs or wants a pen. Let me also point out, in case you're interested, in case you have questions related, I wrote some cross-references to some of the things in the passage. Oops. right, so let me ask, like, what did you notice? Or did you have questions? Or what seems strange? Or,
The first thing I like about Mark, this particular, because all the Gospels tell about this in general, but Mark kind of puts all the context together. You know, he tells where it came from in the past, what's happening right now, and, you know, so the progression is there, where some people would say, well, you know, so what? But he tells why they're looking towards John and why he was in the wilderness. And so I think the first couple of verses, even though we're not focusing on them, really give us the context of what we're going to look at.
okay, and tell us the context.
I will send a messenger before you. Why is John out there?
Okay.
A voice calling from the wilderness. Why John is in the wilderness. Preparing a way for the Lord. Why Jesus is coming to John. You know. So to me, that just kind of prepares you for what you're going to read with. As John was in the wilderness preaching, the people came to him to confess their sins. And he says, there will be somebody that's even better, that's more than me. I am just here with water. He is going to bless you with the Spirit. He is going to lead your way into heaven. So he, you know, it's that progression. And I don't think the other Gospels really give that context and give you that progression like he does.
Huh. Okay, that's really interesting. So something I heard you say was kind of cause and effect, like where the is that it? Like we're told.
Well, in the Old Testament, they had always known it. You know, they had heard it from Isaiah. They had heard about this. But now he's saying, you heard this. And now this is happening. You know, come on, pay attention. It's time.
Yeah.
You know, he's really emphasizing the fact that this is coming true now, right this second. You know, not because always in the past it will happen, it will happen, it will happen. But now Mark is saying, no, it's now. It's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were told to expect it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Other things that you observed, or questions, or themes.
Well, we were cautioned to beware of false prophets. But it's kind of interesting that Mark said, this is the one you need to pay attention to. I don't know, although being cautioned of other false prophets, I don't recall of any particular false prophets that were identified that were not the true messenger of God, as John the Baptist. So it's kind of interesting that Mark was able to, of other folks out there preaching, that said, this is the one that he is the real messenger coming.
Yeah, and so what's the evidence that he's the real messenger coming from the text? What's the evidence from the text?
Well, after he baptized Jesus, that the dove descending in the voice of God saying,
Okay.
This is my son. So you have confirmation.
Yeah, so like what's the evidence that this is the person? And so as Adrian was saying, he's like, we have the prophecies from the past that he fulfills.
But on the other hand, you got this prophet that dresses a little out of character with the rest of society. And his diet is somewhat different from the norm. So for John the Baptist to be identified as the true messenger, when he does stand out, but he stands out in a different context.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Let me think. So maybe they're like, I guess I was thinking like, what's the evidence that Jesus is the Messiah? But there's also, I guess what you're saying is like, what's the evidence that John is a person
Is the true messenger.
He does stand out, but the nature of his personal appearance, and it's kind of interesting that they point out that in particular what his diet is.
Yeah, that is very
I use a lot
unusual.
I don't normally consume sugar outright. I use honey.
Oh,
Honey's pretty messy. And if you have a beard, it seems to me you'd have a little bit of problem here.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very much honey, and you've got fly paper.
Yeah.
And that was his breakfast, lunch.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they're trying to emphasize is he's eating off the land. He's not getting anything processed. He's not going to the market and getting food.
Yeah.
He's definitely living off the land and what he can find available to him.
Huh. And why is that significant?
Just think it's to somebody who lives in the city, and that's just very unusual. It's something that would stand out. It would say that he's trusting totally in what he believes in order to live.
Well, that's interesting.
But where did he get that knowledge? If he's out in the wilderness,
Yeah.
not around the temple, not around the scholars who have read the scrolls, yet he knows about God and the coming of Jesus.
But he also knew about God even before he was born, because in his mother's stomach, he was already rejoicing when he heard.
Yeah. So he was preordained
Yes.
to do what he did even prior to his birth.
Yeah, which seems to be like what's suggested in this passage. I will send my messenger ahead of you.
And then we lose that connection from where he jumped in his mother's womb until they're cousins, until they meet again at the River Jordan for him to be baptized.
Right.
That period of time, the 30 years, where were they?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, right.
Either one, we really don't know. I mean,
Right.
I would say John was probably, Elizabeth took him to church, and, through his young years, that's where he learned about, read all the other prophecies, and
Well, his father was a priest.
Yeah. Well, so,
he's probably spent a lot of time in the church. But when did he actually go out and start going out in the wilderness?
Yeah.
Was it at 12 or was it at 22? Or, we don't know those things, and we kind of wonder about that.
yeah. Well, so that raises another question. So Mark doesn't tell us any of that. This is the beginning of Mark, right? And Mark starts by saying the beginning of the good news about Jesus the Messiah.
Right.
And so why do you think that Mark starts? Why do you think Mark starts his account here, and why does he call it the beginning?
Because until Jesus is baptized, his ministry really hasn't begun.
Hmm.
This would be the beginning of his ministry for us, the normal people, I guess you'd say.
Huh.
I mean, that's the only thing I can come up with.
Well, they've been waiting so long. You know, they thought surely it was coming, but it took so long until
many generations.
Jesus came on the scene. So maybe this is from Mark's point of view, say, okay, this is where it's beginning.
Okay.
Finally.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I also wonder, so like my own misreading at the beginning, as I was starting to read, is like Genesis starts with in the beginning, right? And so I wonder if partly starting his book this way is, I don't know, saying new creation. This is a new creation.
New covenant, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't answer the question, like, why does he start here in the story? But at least why does he start the book with those words? Maybe that's part of the point. Yeah. Other things that you noticed, things that seem strange.
Well, to me, in verse 13, and I'd always known he was sent out for 40 days to be tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild animals, but I didn't realize and angels attended him, because when Satan tempts him, I thought it was, if you're really the Lord, the angels will come and save you, but I didn't realize that he was already being attended by the angels. To me, that was strange.
It doesn't say how he survived in the wilderness like John the Baptist did.
Oh, that's
Lived
true. Huh.
off the land, but it doesn't say how
Right.
Jesus lived,
Right.
how he made it. Maybe the angels took care of him.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it never said he ate lotus and honey.
No.
Yeah. I didn't notice that.
And he was there for a good while.
40 days, my goodness.
40 days and 40 nights.
Huh, that's interesting. So as you say that, it reminds me. One of the Gospels, I think, talks about him fasting. Is that true? But that's not here, right? So it's conceivable that as far as...
But I do believe that was in one of them.
Yeah, so I don't quite know what to make of the angels attending him either. Like, I guess I would tend to think if angels are attending you, I guess just in my own imagination, that seems to contrast with the idea that he was being tempted.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah. But by the way, so in between this class and the start of service, I often go down to the library, and there are art books there, and so books of like the story of Jesus in art. And I have noticed before that there are these strange figures that show up in a lot of the stories that are angels, and some of them in the Jesus in the wilderness, and there are angels there, and it did strike me as strange, and it didn't occur to me until you said that just now, like what those angels are doing there. So it doesn't answer your question, but it kind of adds to my own sense of, yeah, that's kind of strange and unexpected.
Yes, in Matthew 4, verse 2, it said, and he fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterward he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him. So he was out there, but it doesn't, in Matthew, it doesn't say anything about the angels attending him.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's just strange.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, so there was a question I was particularly interested in, which is why.
Why now?
Yes, particularly the voice from heaven. Like, why do you think the voice? Like, why do we hear the voice then?
I think the statement that John said, after me comes the one more powerful, and in order for God to emphasize this is the one more powerful, you know, listen to me, I'm speaking directly to you now. So it's not just John saying it, that there is somebody more powerful than him, but God is actually recognizing him. And I think it's important for them, because John was trying to push people, not push them away from God, but push them away from them thinking he's the one. Because there were so many people saying, oh, he must be the one. And he's trying to tell them, no, it's not me.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so, well, who is it? Well, I'm telling you, God's saying, I'm telling you who it is now.
Okay.
To me, that would be one reason why I think he picked them.
Huh.
So
Okay.
that he could get the beginning of his followers.
Huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Other ideas about why this voice comes then?
I wonder between the previous time than this, when God made his presence known to the people, how much, was there a large amount of time since the Ten Commandments were delivered? That there was an interface, a direct interface with God and the people on earth.
That is a
And,
good question.
his presence was made known as they wandered, with water and food being provided, but I wonder if there was generation.
Oh, more than, probably a lot more than one generation, I would say.
So that now God is making his presence known to the people on earth, that it's been such a long time of a similar event.
Yeah.
Wonder how long it had been.
And so, yeah, so that's a good question. So you want to say something like, how long since God kind of interacted directly, or
Right.
Direct
Interaction, yeah.
direct action, communication. It's not a confrontation,
No.
it's an affirmation.
I agree with that.
Huh. Yeah, so that's a good question that we could, with more time and resources, we could look up. But so we know that there were lots and lots of generations between Sinai and Jesus, right? Because we've got all the kings of Israel, and lots of generations there. There's also vague recollections from Sunday school. Weren't there 400 years between the end of the minor prophets and the beginning of the New Testament? Hundreds of years, it seems. So that, yeah, it does seem like a question that with more research maybe we could answer. But
Brandon, where are you when we need you?
yeah. Yeah. And so then what's the significance of that question? If it's been a long, long time, then
I think the significance is they had been waiting so long for this to occur in the first place, and then to have the affirmation from God Himself. They're thinking, He hasn't left us. He is with us. And now He's given us His Son. I mean, it's just making it a stronger, it's like having your mom come to your birthday party, you know? It's one of those things where, yeah, your birthday party would have been great without her, but how much better is it when she's there, you know? But not.
And this wasn't the best time for the people. They were under
No.
Roman rule.
Right.
So they could not live the way they wanted to live. Plus, they were taxed by the Romans. The Romans were very cruel and harsh on them. So that would be difficult for them to practice the religion that passed down to their elders in the manner in which they were forced to live, which was very much different than what was presented in the Old Testament versus what the Romans were doing to them. You know, how can you love your neighbor when he's crucifying you and causing you to live under harsh conditions?
And the fact that you have to go out to the wilderness to even hear about Him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
You know, people were meeting in their homes or in the, you know, they couldn't go just to the church and be open about it, because a lot of times of the persecution and everything. So they would meet secretly and meet in odd places. So maybe this was I'm going to bring this back into the open, where you can, you know, I'm going to be open to you, and here's Jesus. He's going to be open to you, and he's not going to put up with all that Roman stuff. He's going to teach you the way to be and how to act, and I want you to follow him, but without being there personally, I don't know if the people would have taken it as seriously. You know, sure. You know, Jesus comes out of the water and we're supposed to follow him. Sure. You know, but when God says, I'm here, follow him, you know, it's kind of that extra push they may have needed to get over the mountain.
Okay.
The voice from heaven probably made that much easier for him.
Mm-hmm.
That was proof there that he was the Messiah.
Sometimes I'm wondering if anybody heard the voice or just John the Baptist. Because I'm sure there were more people around there.
Well, you would think so, talking about.
There were hundreds of people there getting baptized even before him when Jesus walked up.
Like
Some
you
of the
say,
other gospels
if they did
said,
hear that, that was just more proof that he was the Messiah.
but even, I mean, they said it came down as a dove. I think a lot of people saw that too.
Yeah.
You know, and had him sit on his shoulder. The having something that's directly pointing at a person. You know, he's had a dove on his shoulder. He didn't have a dove on everybody's shoulder, or he didn't have a dove on John the Baptist's shoulder. So it was like it's like pointing an arrow and then saying, this one, this one here.
Yeah. All right. So the dove as well would count as evidence that Jesus was the Messiah. Yeah. So here's what struck me about this passage. So I really like this passage, and partly because I am addicted to approval. And what stands out to me is this voice comes from heaven and says, "You're my son, whom I love. With you I'm well pleased." And to me, I can almost drool to hear those words, or just to imagine the effect of someone saying, "I love you and I'm pleased with you." And so then it makes me think, well, why is this voice? Why does he get this message then? And so I think all these things are true, but the thing that stands out to me is he hasn't done anything yet.
No.
And so, yeah. So usually I think about Jesus, and it seems like there are hymns that I didn't bother to look up, but they seem to say things like, we praise you for what you've done, which certainly we should, right? But here, he hasn't done anything. It seems to me, right?
If I were Jesus, and,
right,
and my dad was standing there, and he says, "Honey, I love you. I'm really pleased with you, and I'm sending you out into the desert for 40 days. So it might have been that before we get you started, let me tell you how much I love you so that you'll be able to face what's coming."
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess.
Because the next thing he does is you get sent out. Well, I would love to hear from my parents that, hey, we're sending you off to college, but we love you, and we're here for you, and we are really pleased with you, even though you haven't done it yet, but we know you're going out there, and we want you to know that we're behind you. You know? Maybe, I don't know. That's just how I hope it would feel to Jesus, like he's got that extra feeling of loving and caring. And the God is also saying, if I'm loving and caring for him, shouldn't we all be loving and caring?
Oh, say that last part again.
He's showing us an example of how to be loving and caring. God is showing us an example of how to be loving and caring.
Okay.
For our own children.
All right.
This is my child, so therefore, why aren't you treating your children the same?
Oh, that's interesting. All right. Yeah. This yes, the same as right. I guess what struck me is just what you said, that he hadn't done anything to earn the approval, right? But he does get sent out into the wilderness after that. And there's,
but don't we love you don't have to do your kids don't do anything, and you love them, and you want to tell them how much you love them. And I think he just wanted to tell them how much he loved them. That is definitely the grace of it. He doesn't have to deserve it. He just gets it,
Yeah. Yes. So that's remarkable to me, I guess, because I feel like I need to do things to deserve approval, right? And so he gets it without having done anything. And I do think that maybe that's right, that instead of him doing something remarkable and getting this message, "I'm well pleased with you," that getting the message, "I'm well pleased with you," helps him then, withstand the temptation And one bit of evidence for that isn't in this text, but Mark later has another. I'll talk faster. Has another story similar to this, where we hear the voice of God from the cloud, and that's at the Transfiguration, right?
Right.
Shortly before they start heading to Jerusalem to die. And so, yeah, it does seem to me like maybe all my life I had this the other way around, or I had it backwards, thinking that you please God by doing something, or I would do something to get approval. And here he gets approval before he does anything. But also, like, one of the contrasts, it seems to me, is part of the reason that I like approval is I imagine it would protect me from things, right? Like, if God loves me, I won't have to do whatever horrible, or live through whatever horrible thing. And this doesn't say that, right? He gets this message of, I love you and I'm well pleased with you, and still, you're going out to the desert for 40 days to be tempted.
And not only that, the whole rest of his life is persecution, and they get pushed around a lot. They usually don't go hungry, but because people help them. But there's a lot of times where it's not always the most pleasant. If I had the priests always questioning everything I did, and everywhere I went, having people push me and prosecute me and yell at me all the time, that's hard. And to still stay focused on the love. And I think that's what would help me and helps me today, is to know he loves me no matter what. No matter what's happening in my life or where I am or what I'm doing, he still loves me. And I think that's an important message for us today.
Yeah. And so, as we close, any other takeaways, anything else that you'll take away from this passage?
I just like the way that we take a passage that we've heard for years and dissect it, as Rory's doing Wednesday night. You say, well, I've heard that before. Well, yes, I've heard it before. But did I really, really look at it? Like, we're taking a few verses here and really spending some time to look into it. What was happening at the time? Who were the main characters? Why did it happen? And where else does it relate to other portions of the Bible?
Yeah. Anything else? All right. Really fast, I'll pray again to close.
Thank you.